Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's our Facebook Live. We will get started in a few minutes, or seconds really, and we will go over some good news and some updates, and even a new visa that we haven't discussed before to share with you all tonight. So I look forward to discussing that with you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Nayef Mubarak with Mubarak Law, and thank you for joining us on our Facebook Live today. We are just going to jump into some really good news. I mean, February is the shortest month of the year, but we've already managed to have 5 brand new U.S. citizens take the oath. Congratulations to them. We have 1 green card holder approved. Congratulations to that person. But we still have 2 citizenship interviews left and 2 green card interviews left. I think 7 citizens in 1 month might be a record for our office. So congratulations to our clients who work so hard and are, willing to study and put in the work to do what it is to become a citizen. So again, 5 U.S. citizens already in just 11 days of February. So we are just through the moon for that. Today we're going to talk about the H-1B non-immigrant employment visa. The reason being it's a timely visa in the sense that the visa opens up April 1st of every year or the next business year. So we will continue to get applications and calls regarding this visa. So before I talk about it, I'm going to give you some other shorter updates. Okay, so we have a lot of Venezuelan clients, and a lot of people have reached out to us on whether or not there's a Venezuelan TPS. What is DED? What does it all mean? So for Venezuelans, as the last day in office, Trump signed a deferred enforced departure, basically saying we're not going to force people to leave the United States if they're Venezuelan, but they will be eligible to get work permits. So we know that this is going to allow them to have a work permit for 18 months. We have already met with many individuals and are starting to process or complete the applications and evidence that they need. However, USCIS has not released any instructions or guidance yet on how to file. But if it's anything like the other DEDs in the past for other countries, we know what to expect. And we're going to have to just demonstrate citizenship and eligibility and the proper form to obtain the work permit for Venezuelans in the DED. Now, also on the same topic, Syrian TPS for the Syrians, Ahl Suriya, TPS has been redesignated. Redesignations on TPS. What does that mean? That means if you've been here and you didn't qualify for TPS, you can register now for the first time. So anybody who's arrived and it was too late for them to get TPS, you have until sometime in mid-March to get your TPS application in. If you're a Syrian, go ahead and do that. Now, on February 4th, this is another important update. On February 4th last week, Senator Durbin and Graham, a Republican and a Democrat, have reintroduced their DREAM Act bill. Now, the DREAM Act bill was actually, believe it or not, first attempted 20 years ago in 2001, and we still do not have a proper DREAM Act that has been passed or become law to provide status to these to these individuals who came here as minors and who have been here in pretty much the only country that they know. So it'll be very interesting to see a bipartisan bill in the Senate on immigration reform. I think if we don't have a big comprehensive immigration reform bill affecting all of those that are in the United States with status or without status, then we definitely should see some traction, I hope, on the Dreamers bill. So that's why we get the name Dreamers, right? Because it came from the DREAM Act 20 years ago and we still hasn't passed. So this was just presented to the Senate last week with Senator Durbin and Senator Graham. So please, if you want to support the DREAM Act, contact your senator, Marco Rubio's office, Rick Scott, and let them know you support this bill. Some background on the DREAM Act and also for DACA. If you've never applied for DACA before, under the Trump administration, you were not able to seek DACA designation. However, now DACA is back completely. So if you check out our website, mubaraklaw.com, we have the requirements for DACA. You had to be under 31 in 2012. You needed to enter the U.S. before your 16th birthday. And there's some other requirements. And of course, issues like no major criminal history, those would be disqualifying for that. So please check that out. That's really good news. And I hope that we see something soon. Just some statistics. There are over 1 million Dreamers in the U.S. 600,000 of them have the DACA status, meaning that they are paying taxes, they're contributing to society, they have no criminal history or disqualifying history, and 200,000 of these DACA Dreamers are actually frontline workers. So whether it's in the hospitals or in the supermarkets, we have Dreamers who are contributing to our society. Again, and even Silicon Valley is very involved with the DREAM Act and lobbying for it because of the high number of young people who work in software in Silicon Valley. So and that's why it has bipartisan support. That's why you see Republicans and Democrats coming together on the DREAM Act, because it's common sense for people who came here to no fault of their own, have no criminal history, and have been here for a certain amount of time and are educated and work and pay taxes. Why wouldn't we allow them to get some type of permanent status? So please be on the lookout for that. Okay, so it's February 11th. To those who are going to celebrate on Sunday, happy Valentine's Day. Happy Single Awareness Day, but we are coming close to April 1st. And it's not because of April Fool's Day, but because April 1st is the opening of the H-1B cap. Hello, Mr. Mohammed, how are you? And Athman and Shahida, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate the comments. So the H-1B cap. The H-1B is a non-immigrant employment-based visa. It's either for specialty occupation, services of exceptional merit, or DoD, Department of Defense contracts, or a fashion model or distinguished merit or ability. So the H-1B, we see a lot of times students who are here on an F1 at UCF or on OPT, and they are then going to get a job offer. And a lot of times the employer can seek a non-immigrant H-1B visa for them. So what is specialty occupation? This is a legal requirement. It's a legal term. What does that actually mean? So there's a couple different ways that we can evaluate specialty occupation. So usually we want to see a bachelor's degree as a minimum requirement for this position. And then also as an employer, you can't just put a bachelor's degree as required because you want this individual to work. In the industry, in similar jobs, it is normal and expected that one has a bachelor's degree in order to obtain it. And then again, that it requires specialized knowledge in order to do this kind of job. So what about those people who have work experience, but they don't have a bachelor's degree from the US? That does not mean you're not going to qualify for the H-1B. But what we can do is there are a lot of what we call equivalency companies, where they will take your degree from your home country and your work experience, and they will do an equivalency and say, this person with their degree from Canada or from Jordan and their work history, we say it equals a master's degree, right? So there's a way to overcome if somebody does not have a US bachelor's degree. Now, if you have a master's degree, a lot of times that's great because it's a master's cap. And what I mean by that is that there are limited amount of visas. So let's get back to April 1st and the importance of this. So there are 65,000 H-1B visas and an extra 20,000 for the cap. So basically, there's typically over 200,000 applicants each year. So it goes into a lottery system. So you have to have a job offer, then you get selected randomly by USCIS. And then if you're selected, USCIS will do the evaluation to determine whether or not you qualify and the employer qualifies for this visa. Now, if you're a student and you have OPT, that's allowing you to work after you've studied and completed your course. A lot of times you can extend your status if your H-1B is selected, depending on when your OPT actually expires. So we're talking about the H-1B now because now is the time for employers and students to start working on their H-1B applications, employers and employees, because April 1st is fast approaching. And there's some things that we need to do prior to this deadline in order to make sure that one's application is received on time. Remember, it's a lottery, so filing late a lot of times can prevent you from being eligible for this visa. So what's required here? What's the processing like? So basically, we would submit, now it's gone electronic, where there's an ability to create a profile for the employer and the position. And then this is how we submit, I call it like a ticket for the lottery to see if one is going to be selected. So we must also complete with the Department of Labor what's called a labor condition application. This is required to, demonstrate the wage and show that this employer is verifying their, federal ID number and that they are going to be eligible to pursue such a visa. So if you are selected, then we need to file the I-129, which is the form we use for non-immigrant employment-based petitions, and supporting evidence. So let's talk about non-immigrant. So non-immigrant means basically temporary. It's not here giving you a permanent position here in the US. So the H-1B is good for a maximum of 6 years typically. So it's usually in 3-year increments you're granted H-1B status. In some exceptions, you can get additional time if you had 485, which is a green card application pending, and it's been pending more than a year, for example. So anyways, the H-1B is a non-immigrant visa similar to the E-2 or the the E-2, and there's P visas and O visas. So these are all different visas that are available and non-immigrant. An immigrant visa is basically allowing the individual to remain here permanent in the US, where they go through a lot of hurdles and hoops in order to qualify. I do see that Mr. Mohammed is asking me, where is Besma? الأسبوع الجاي كل ثالث خميس بنعمل اللايف بالعربي. So every third Thursday, we do the Facebook Live in Arabic. So join us next week. And of course, Ms. Besma Alawi will be with us taking questions. So that's what was coming next week. And actually, the week after that, we're going to start doing Facebook Lives with actual former clients, and you guys can hear from them the experience of going through immigration and the experience of working with our firm. And we also would like to start doing Facebook Live in Spanish. For many of our Spanish-speaking clients, we believe it will be incredibly helpful. We do send a newsletter out and our YouTube channel. Oh, by the way, we reached 100 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you guys very much. Been asking that of you for a while, and I appreciate the support and the following. Okay, so back to the H-1B program. We are talking about the period of stay, and it is typically for a period of 6 years. Now, if there is a interruption in the employment or there's a change of employers, what happens? So if you have a change in employers, typically we tell applicants or beneficiaries of the H-1B visa not to change employers without the new employer filing the petition first. The case doesn't need to be approved. However, they should at least file the I-129 first, and typically receiving those receipts is super important to justify that you have done everything properly in your transferring of employment. And of course, it would be a similar job, similar industry that would have it. We do have some comments, Mr. Othman. I appreciate the feedback. You're great. Thank you for joining us. And if you guys do have specific questions about the H-1B or anything, please just let me know. So if you're here, as long as you're selected and you can then stay in the U.S., however, you do have to maintain your status some way. Simply filing and in April is not going to protect you until you're actually I-129 is pending. So you have to at least maintain status for several months. A lot of times we don't hear back from USCIS until May or June on whether or not a case was selected or when it's time to file. So it kind of leaves a lot of individuals in limbo. So I'm going to just look at some of these questions that I have here and see what it is. So the H-1B does allow one to bring their spouse and any children under 21 that are not married. So you've heard me say that a lot. Spouse, children under 21 and not married. For those who are following and learning immigration law with me, that's what we consider immediate relatives under U.S. immigration laws for a lot of these visas and beneficiaries. So sometimes once your child becomes over 21, they're no longer your immediate relative under the immigration law, and that's why you need to find an alternative visa for them. And as far as spouse and family members, your children will not be eligible for work authorization. And under the Trump administration, spouses were not eligible. I'm not sure if it's changed already, but I know that the Biden administration was talking about bringing that ability back. I mean, somebody's going to be here for 3 or 6 years. You would think we would allow their spouse to work and not be stuck at home. And so hopefully we can see what's going to happen with that. So there's a question that says, can I expedite the processing? So unlike family petitions, Lem Shemel, things like this, there is premium processing for a lot of employment-based applications, and H-1B is one of them. So basically, you typically pay the U.S. government $2,500, and we should get a response, not a final decision, within 15 calendar business days. So a lot of times what happens is that on like the day 12 or 13, USCIS will send out what's called a request for evidence simply to comply with that time. But it is a great tool. We can typically have a final decision in a month or two after filing, okay? So as I mentioned, next week we will have Ms. Besma Allawi on Facebook Live. We will be taking questions in Arabic. We will be answering your questions in Arabic. And I know many of you have questions about immigration or car accidents, and you would like it to be answered in Arabic. So please join us next week. For everybody who's been asking, I expect to see you here. And this has been today's Facebook Live. It's a short and sweet. Congratulations to our 5 U.S. citizens in the month of February. I hope to make it 7, maybe more, on some people that we're waiting on from January to further final decisions. So we will keep you all updated. If you have any comments or want a topic, as always, please send us recommendations. And thank you for taking the time to join me. We'll see you next week on every Thursday's Facebook Live at 6:30 p.m. And happy Valentine's Day, guys. Bye-bye.